Hello, Liverpool fans. Welcome to the Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast. Coach Ralph and I are excited to bring you this podcast. From games to players to club news, we cover everything LFC. You can find us on every platform and YouTube. Please take a second to follow or subscribe to the podcast. That way, you know when the latest podcast is up. Thank you for listening, and now on to the show. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast. My name is Salim. I'm one of your co-hosts, and I'm with my other co-host, Coach Ralph. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Salim, and I'm very excited that we have one of your teammates, one of the lads that played for me, with you,
That's right.
in fact. So yeah, we'll have to get back into our time machine and go back in time.
Yeah.
Maybe to relive some of the past glories, as it were.
Yeah, I have some questions for you about that, how you remember us and all that, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
But everybody, our special guest today is Jeff Autenrieth. Jeff is a very good friend of mine and a fellow Liverpool fan. And as Coach mentioned, we both played for Coach, I believe, under 17 and under 18 for the Boston Lightning back then. And I've referred to this in the past that our shirts actually had the Liverpool emblems on them. You'll never walk alone, the whole nine. We were through and through Liverpool, I think, from that day, at least for me. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to connect. It's been a while, Coach, so I'm really excited to chat and catch up.
Well, I hope all the memories are good.
Yeah. For the most part, yeah, I would say so.
Good. Okay.
Minus not winning a title. I think that was the biggest snafu for our team. We got to the finals twice, and
much talent to not win a title. So
yeah. Okay. Well, that's a familiar story, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So, Jeff, when and how did you become a Liverpool fan? For me, it had a lot to do with Coach, that team, our style of play, and then just kind of finding them on TV and just realizing that, hey, I kind of played for somebody that was really passionate, actually not somewhat passionate, very passionate about Liverpool. And that's a team I stuck to. How about you?
Yeah, so it definitely starts with Coach. I feel like there were a couple different times that we went back to his place to like watch film, and the film was obviously always Liverpool. And, you know, just like looking how from a tactical perspective, they did some of the things that we were trying to do. And like, we're all, you know, goofing around and eating pizza, but there was a point to it, even at 17. And, you know, we thought we knew what we were doing. And then you see some of these guys play, and like, we're talking 1997, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So like, this is the era of like Gerrard just coming into the team, if I'm not mistaken. And you have some stalwarts still in that team. Like, it was a very aggressive style of play, and I loved it. So that definitely is the way it started. And I want to say life took over, college, etc. Just, I reconnected it about 2006 or 8 or something like that. And one of my other really good friends, his brother-in-law, massive Liverpool fan. He was he played at College of Charleston, D1. So he's a very good player himself, and he's a massive Liverpool fan. And so as I started hanging out with him, like, we didn't even talk about soccer at first. And as soon as he figured out that I played at, you know, somewhat of a high level, that's all we talked about. And so like, we became friends outside of my friend kind of thing. And I would go down, he lived in Providence, and I would go down and, you know, bring my kids, my like 2 like little babies, and go watch matches and hang out. And, you know, I think that's where it really just kind of rekindled the flame for me in the sense of supporting Liverpool.
Yeah, that's that, you know, it's funny you said it kind of like stops for a while and it rekindled. I think the rekindling has to do with the availability to watch Premier League games, right? As we got older.
Correct.
Yeah. And Coach, when when, in those days, how did you watch games? Because you're still, very, very connected. You watch the, you look at the whole club as a whole. You watch the youth games. Can you kind of go into it, how you watched the games back then, if you were even able to?
Well, it was kind of a period. There was a little bit of a vacuum for me because when I came over to this country, there was no soccer on television apart from a program called Soccer Made in Germany. I don't know if either of you are familiar with that. Probably before your time. And that was in the 80s. And then going into the 90s, and that's right around the time that the Premier League started and everything. The only thing that was on the television was ESPN used to show, it was just before it became the Premier League, they used to show like an hour-long show that would show all the goals in the first division. And of course, Liverpool featured because this was the era of John Barnes and Ian Rush and everything, and they were still doing well. When I started coaching at Tufts, I discovered that there was a pub close to Harvard Square called the Plough and Stars. And what they used to do via some kind of satellite link, on a Saturday afternoon, they would show games from earlier in the day from England. And whenever I knew that it was going to be a Liverpool game, then I would go over on the Saturday afternoon and I would watch. But by the time that I kind of connected with you guys, I moved up to Beverly. And I'm not sure at that time if I'd come across, there was an Irish pub up here, and they used to show games on a Saturday, and except these would be live. They would be on a Saturday morning. And so I would go up regularly to, the place was called Kitty O'Shea's. And I would watch whatever game was on because that was the only way that I could really follow the game. Of course, the internet was just kicking off in the 90s as well. So I could follow it day to day, but I wasn't always able to watch the games like I can now.
Yeah, that's I remember in the 90s that occasionally there'd be Champions League games on, maybe on ESPN or something else, but I would be very puzzled because I wasn't very aware of how it all worked with the Champions League and the different leagues back then, that I would be able to watch Champions League games on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and then I wouldn't. And it was very confusing, but I remember going home from school and always turning it on just to see if there was a game on. Mm. And but the massive explosion of the Premier League, especially into our country and on television all the time, it was absolutely just must-watch TV. Jeff mentioned a pub in Wilmington. You mentioned a couple pubs. There was a pub in Tampa where I lived at the time called McDenton's, and I used to take my friends who were not big soccer guys but loved to have a beer in the morning and just watch Liverpool and all the big games and then Champions League games there. Jeff, I believe you've been there actually. So it's pretty interesting how that works. Jeff, as far as moments, is there like a few of your few moments that you can kind of recall in your mind about Liverpool that are just really near and dear to your heart? I'm sure watching some of the games with your son are pretty important, but anything else that kind of pops out?
Yeah, there was, I remember I think it was the at the time, the Carling Cup. It wasn't the Caribou Cup yet, but my kids were very little still, and they, for Christmas, I bought them like Liverpool jumpsuits. So they each had their own full on warm-up suits. And we went to a pub and we watched the game. It was the Boynton, Salim. You remember the Boynton in Worcester?
I do.
And so we went there and we watched the game, and my wife wore a jersey and I had a jersey on, and it wasn't like a Liverpool supporters club, but I have pictures and I get the Facebook memories or whatever at this point of that moment. And that moment was cool to me because, my whole family was supporting me, and like this is early on in my like rebirth of supporting Liverpool in a way. And so like to me that was a really cool moment. I would say so like I think there's some obvious ones. The Barcelona comeback and like that game and that moment and the mental toughness and like they call them mentality monsters. Like that stuff is always going to be something like that'll I'll never forget that, watching that and the feeling and everything. When they won the Prem title, I remember watching the live stream because it was COVID and waiting for them to like the final whistle of, I think it was the Man City game at the time. And they were all in a, like a little pub or backyard area and, them just celebrating and everything. Like that was crazy. I think the other one for me, like Alisson coming up and scoring a goal that season when they won, like you don't ever see a goalie score a goal. Like that is super, super rare. Like that stuff sticks out to me for sure. So, I mean, I'm sure there's some things I'm forgetting or not remembering at this moment, but like those are definitely some of the ones that, Suarez's hat trick against Norwich with the dumbest goals I've ever seen for a hat trick. They like just absolutely incredible. So I just, those are some of the moments I would pick out that just absolutely stand out for me personally.
Coach, we talked about some of those goals, and do you remember who the Alisson goal was against? I'm drawing a blank.
West Brom, but I do have to put in an aside here. Very impressed with how Jeff is bringing up his family. I mean, this is, like they're all diehard Reds, Jeff.
Yeah, you never walk alone, Coach. like my first memory goes to like when my family first supported me, and like even down here. So I moved to North Carolina, and I found a pub, and like one of the first things I did was like, well, I moved in August, like late August, and I was like, the first thing I wanted to do was find out where could I watch Liverpool with people, and I actually found this, like, it's an official Liverpool supporters club. Like it's like one of those branded kind of things. Mm-hmm. And when I tell you some of the scenes at this place, it makes you feel like you're at Anfield. And I haven't been to Anfield yet, but people tell me like, this is like a 12th of the actual excitement and passion that you'll see when you go. Yeah. And but that's the stuff. It's like, it's people, you're surrounded by your people. And like that to me is the best.
Well, I don't know if the two of you know, but do you remember a club, and I think we possibly played against them, called Sutton Fuller Hamlets?
Oh, yeah.
I used to play for them before I joined your team, yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you know what they're called now, don't you?
No.
Spirits of Liverpool.
Wow.
No, they are.
Because
that's Spirit of Liverpool?
Yeah. If you recall, Sutton Fuller Hamlets used to play in a royal blue kit like yes. Everton.
Yes.
And I think it was because, was the fellow in charge of the club a fellow called Martin Bowden?
I can't recall.
Yes.
I can't recall.
I'm not 100%. Yeah.
Right. I think he was from Merseyside and he was an Everton fan. And I don't quite know the full story of how the transition was, but and I'm blanking on the name of the guy who's in charge of the club now, but he's from Liverpool. And so gradually the transition, it kind of changed from blue to red. And I'm not sure if he called them something like Liverpool, Massachusetts for many years. And then what happened was there was a big club down on the South Shore whose name I'm blanking on. And then they became part of the Liverpool International Academy.
Oh,
and when that happened, the Worcester-based club or that Central Mass club had to change their name and are now called Spirits of Liverpool. So, in the equivalent, Maple's not there anymore. There's some kind of New England league,
yeah,
and there are two Liverpool teams, as it were, within it. And I can't think of any other clubs exactly like that, where they're kind of tribute clubs, as it were.
The only one I know of is Worcester has a Juventus team.
Yeah, I don't think that exists anymore.
Yeah, it may not exist now.
Yeah. There were ones back in the day. There was a Napoli team in kind of Metro West area of Boston, and there are a couple of others. But all the clubs now, I think Liverpool's the only one in this state that is represented so directly.
Coach, did this happen after Fenway Sports Group was in charge, or was this literally by chance that a couple guys from Liverpool just started up more Liverpool-like academies kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't think it was anything to do with Fenway, because after I left Tufts and I started a little club up on the North Shore, I looked into associating with Liverpool, and to be candid, it was a lot of money. So I didn't do it, but the club that was down on the South Shore, they were a huge club. They had hundreds of teams, so I guess it had more of a benefit for them, plus they could afford to do it. So there are lots of Liverpool type clubs that are affiliated to the International Academy, which are all over the States. And I believe there's a couple of areas. I think there's one in Tennessee, for example. I'm not sure if Liverpool owns it, or they've certainly got a big say in how it evolved and was bought and developed and what have you. So yeah, it's the way this is in this country. There are quite a lot of Liverpool clubs.
Yeah, in pubs that like support them. I mean,
oh, for sure.
Jeff mentioned, I mean, I just said this, 10 minutes ago, but there's one out here even. It's called Abby's Tavern. I watched was it the League Cup when they went to penalties against Chelsea and Kepa skied one that I think the ball's still flying around now. But I watched the game there, and it was, like Jeff says, it's like mini excitement, I'm sure when Jeff and I talk about going to Liverpool, we talk about like how emotional it'll be, because we've just heard the stadium roaring. And I mean, on my TV, when I watch the games, the volume is up. I want to hear the place jumping. So that's pretty interesting that the clubs are kind of evolving around, the mother club, so to speak, I guess, and the pubs and the fans that kind of go with it. It's all kind of one big happy family.
Well, one thing I found over here, because obviously the clubs, as all the games are on television now, they have an American following. So obviously teams like Chelsea, Manchester City, who have been more successful in recent years, but never traditionally had big support. Lots of Americans will follow them because they're doing well. One thing that I found with Liverpool is, more so than any other part of the country, Liverpool fans announce themselves. They'll wear the gear. When I lived in Swampscott for a short while, I can remember walking around the streets, down by where I lived, and I walked down the corner, and there was a giant Liverpool flag. Like the guy in the house there was an avid Liverpool fan. And that's very much the way that it is. Liverpool fans kind of announce the fact that they are fans of the club, and they make sure everybody knows about it. And I don't see that, even though there are a lot of Man United fans, for example, it doesn't seem to be quite the same to me. And in terms of how they show their passion, shall we say?
I agree with that 100%. By the way, because I have plenty of people down here that I've interacted with. And again, like I'm here less than a year. So I'm meeting new people all the time kind of thing. And, the different, I think some of the more passionate folks are a couple of the Italian teams. So like Juventus and Milan, they stick out, of people that are like, no, like, I support this. And it's great to talk with them, because like we don't really have an animosity towards each other. The Milan fan brought up 2005, obviously, but there is not as much of a you put your flag in the ground and announce yourself sort of tradition-wise. You know, as much as Man U has had success in the past, say, 20 to 30 years, tradition-wise, they don't hold a candle. And it shows in the fans. So...
Well, here's a tip for both of you. You know, I wear a lot of Liverpool gear, and I can't tell you how many free coffees that I've got because of it at Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts. Because you walk in and they go, "Oh, you're a Liverpool fan."
Yes,
here you are, coffee's coming up.
That's excellent.
I love that. I love that. I mean, I have, I think, close to 8 jerseys now, and every year I add one. And I wear them all the time. My most recent one is a McAllister jersey, the third kit for this past year. And I have the Salah from last year's kit. It's nonstop. I have a scarf. I have a beanie. I have shorts. It's just nonstop. I have a hoodie. It's crazy. Jeff, as far as Liverpool players, there's, you know, a wide variety of amazing players that came through, and Coach specializes in, you know, the ones that me and you are not aware of, and he talked about them recently in a couple episodes, and it's really awesome just hearing Coach kind of talk about, you know, the old days and some of the players there. And we recently did a best 11. And there was a lot of players. I obviously kind of stuck to 1992 and beyond because that's kind of what I know. And Jeff, you as well. And Coach kind of stuck to the Liverpool teams prior to that. But saying all that, what are some of your favorite players? Who are some of your favorite players? And are there any like moments that kind of stuck out to you? Like, yeah, I like that guy because of this, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, for sure. So like, I think you're correct. Like, I respect the lineage of the Kenny Dalglish and the Ian Rush, and even Michael Owen, who was probably a little closer to, you know, age-wise myself. But, you know, and there are so many people that I'm not mentioning here, but I mean, Stevie G is like, he is what personifies a Red to me. You know, a local lad. He had everything. He had pace, he had power, he had heart. His IQ was incredible. Like, he was the ultimate Red for me. And so getting a chance to be like what, like we're talking about, like rekindling kind of my fandom with Liverpool and getting a chance to see him even in his later years is amazing. And so like Stevie G is definitely one of those. I would say like other players that I'll sort of like pull out of my locker of people that I just like, I've seen clips or gotten a chance to watch them. As a left-footed, you know, fullback, John R. Reese was phenomenal. And I always just randomly will get the clip of he hit a free kick and it looked like Roberto Carlos. Like, it was incredible. So he was one guy. Daniel Agger is another. Like, just bleeds red. Jordan Henderson as a captain. I think one of my favorite moments was watching him turn about face to Diego Costa in Chelsea and just say, like, what? Do something. Mm-hmm. So I loved it. I loved every second of like the way that he turned into such an amazing captain for the team and a leader and a stalwart. And then right now, I mean, Andy Robertson is kind of that gritty, like if I'm not mistaken, in that Barcelona game, he like smashed Messi's head back to the ground after like Messi got like quote unquote fouled in his eyes, and you know the call didn't get made, and like he just like pushed him and moved on. Like, I love it. I love the tenacity and just he just doesn't care. He's willing to put his body on the line. And like, you know, team first, like that stuff to me is what Liverpool's all about. And those are the kind of guys that I will always like remember and like cherish as you know, we go forward.
Yeah. Stevie G is the starting center half of the all-time team. Shocker, right? I mean, there's not even a guy that compares to him. And, you know, it's funny, we're recording this right after England beat the Netherlands in the Euro semis, and the conversations, right, that the British media have about the team, and, you know, does Southgate know what he's doing? And I remember when Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard, you know, were kind of seen as similar type players.
Oh, they couldn't play together.
Right.
That was the line. They couldn't play together.
Right. And I just didn't see it. You know, I thought Lampard was more offensive, and Steven Gerrard had the more overall game. Coach, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think broadly speaking, I would agree with that. I think that what complicated the issue was there was a third player that kind of fitted into that central role that Lampard and Gerrard had, and that was Scholes over at Manchester United. Yeah. And actually, the systems that they have now, where they'll put three in the middle, or even four. I mean, England basically played with four in the middle today, and then with Kane ahead of them. That really was the solution for the Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes dilemma, because they were all great players, but they were all different. And the managers that had them were never able to solve the problem of how to make it work best for the national team and what have you.
When you add on top of that, you had Beckham that they had to figure out a way to incorporate into that midfield as well. And they're both wide players technically, I guess, but
well, David Beckham, yeah, could play wider. He always wanted to be in the middle, so I guess
suggested, you know,
yeah, I guess if you have the system that England have, where they effectively have two defensive midfielders and then two number 10s in front of them, I guess that you could have even put Beckham in the middle, but I think his greatest asset was his delivery from the wide areas and his yours.
Yeah,
wasn't so much of an issue, perhaps.
But yeah, I will tell you, the game today, the unsung hero was Declan Rice. Like, if you actually go back and look at some of the stuff he did, he broke up some key plays, he delivered some key passes, and it wasn't flashy. There was nothing to it, but it was very impactful. And a lot of the plaudits are going to go to other guys, but like Declan Rice's role today actually was very, like, it reminded me a little bit of how Stevie G was asked to play when on England, you know, because Frank was always further up the field, so Stevie was always asked to play further back.
Deeper, yeah.
You know,
if we look back at that team, Coach, is there a better solution to just kind of getting all of those players in the midfield and seeing if they can work together, or is it sometimes better to kind of sit one guy and have somebody that's more a glue guy versus just kind of jamming all the best talent you have on the field?
Well, I don't think that there's a definitive answer, because sometimes it can vary, and sometimes if you've got so much talent at your disposal, effectively they can't all play, because you do need a certain amount of role players, certain amount of water carriers, call them what you want, within your team. They can't all be the star, because that's never going to work. That's never going to work if everyone.
You're going to ask a star to be a water carrier. That's essentially what you're going to ask CBG to be the water carrier, run up and down and do all the, you know, gritty stuff that somebody else is typically doing in his other teams.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it seems like Southgate has solved the issue. I mean, because the young lad from Manchester United, Manu, you know, I've never really seen him play before, but he's impressed me quite a lot. In fact, I think he's been better than both Foden and Bellingham for me. But again, he's not done anything flashy. He's just been very, very, very reliable, solid, makes good, simple decisions quickly. And then occasionally he can do something special as well.
He ripped a shot today.
Right.
If it didn't hit, it hit a defender. But if it didn't hit that defender, that thing was screaming. So I was like, oh, he's got more in his locker than I think what people have seen so far. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be an interesting kind of progression for somebody like him. And then you have Saka on the wing that's like obviously established himself, but like internationally hasn't necessarily taken that jump. So there's definitely some pieces in that puzzle as they come to the World Cup in 26 that it's an interesting team if they can find the way that everybody knows their role. And just like we were talking before, like somebody's got to be the water carrier. So if Maino's okay with being the water carrier, he allows the freedom for these other guys to flash. And that's the trick.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with somebody about Bellingham and Foden, and I just thought that, it's either one or the other, and I think it's almost impossible to take Bellingham out of that team. But Foden plays his best when he's in the middle, pushing up. And as far as Manchester City goes, I mean, he was the Premier League Player of the Year, and he doesn't look like that. And it's funny because we all
He played more on the wing, though?
What's that?
Like I thought for City he played more on the wing versus the middle.
No.
Well, sometimes they play him out left, but what the problem was with England is that they haven't had a natural left-sided attacking player. Because if you think about the way that Liverpool played, kind of peak Jurgen Klopp era, where they had Salah and Mane on either side of Firmino. I mean, basically, there were two things that would happen. One would be that Firmino would drop back, allowing the other two players to stretch the other team going forward. The other thing that used to happen a lot with both Salah and Mane would come inside, and then Liverpool had fullbacks that were attacking, playing very high up the field. And England didn't have that. And so, I mean, like that's why there's been some of the debate about Harry Kane, because he plays like a Bobby Firmino role.
Yeah, he drops further in.
He drops back, and actually he has pretty good vision as well. And if you think of it with Tottenham, he's got somebody like Son that pushes up, and then he can connect with him. And actually, today was the first time that you started to see Bellingham going beyond, a little bit more. And I think even Foden on a couple of occasions. And so it's taken 2 or 3 games for a system to evolve whereby Foden and Bellingham could play together. And then there's the Harry Kane situation. Now, what happened ultimately in the game today was England had by far the best performance in the first half today. But, nothing comes even remotely close to it. But then the second half was different. And actually it was the same in the Spain-France game the day before, where everybody became a little more cautious. And it seemed like everything was returning to type for England in terms of the way that they were playing.
Yeah.
I started to get the feeling that they were looking to play out time, maybe even with penalties in mind, because
I got the same feeling.
Maybe with success. And he took Kane out, and I don't know whether it was a decision. I don't know whether it was a tactical decision or whether there's been this question mark about Kane's fitness. But if it was a tactical decision, like they were questioning, I could see on the internet and everything, why has he brought on Ollie Watkins? Why not Ivan Toney? Because Toney played in the game before.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking.
But, well, the reason's quite simple. When they brought Toney on, say, against Slovakia, England were in desperation mode. They were pushing up. They needed to get men in the box. Ivan Toney's a big guy. He's a target man.
Yep.
That was a situation for him. In the game today, what was happening was the lion's share of possession now was the Netherlands pushing into the English half. Ollie Watkins is more of a speed player. He stretches the opponent. And that's exactly what he did. But all of a sudden he turned around with that finish, which I didn't see coming.
I don't think
it was explosive, and it was out of nothing. Basically, it was out of nothing. And
the pundits were even saying that it was the defender's fault for lunging and opening up his legs, which I thought was interesting because, as a defender, I'm like, what are you supposed to do? Just stand there static Like, and not, like, it just seemed like it's such a weird comment from some of these guys. Like, you got Taylor Twellman and people that have been like calling the game for years, and it's like, as a defender, you didn't expect him to like go for the ball, and so it missed him and it megged him. Like, I thought that was a weird comment, but like, what a strike! Like, honestly,
yeah, bottom corner.
It hit the edge of the post. It was perfect. Like, it was absolutely perfect.
And, you know, the Gareth Southgate's, you know, catching a lot of crap. And, you know, Coach, you just mentioned Ivan Toney against Slovakia. Ivan Toney was the one who headed the ball to Kane, who put it in to, you know, to put them ahead. Or was that was to tie the game, pardon me. So, and then today, Watkins to stretch, like you had mentioned, and he scores. So, I mean, they give this guy a hard time, but he seems to be pressing buttons that are working.
Well, this is kind of the first time that he's pressed the button.
Well, Ivan Toney, that was 2 games ago, and that worked. So,
I'm just saying, like, previous like games and tournaments, like, he has not done very well with these.
Yeah, but he's been in charge forever, so it's, you know, they have some trust in him, and he, you know, maybe Coach can tell us a little bit more about it.
Southgate has done, Southgate's done some good thing, and I could talk about it for a long time. What would be interesting, because I think that I don't think he'll stay on after the Euros. I mean, Spain are the best team currently. I just have a feeling, and it's even before the semi-finals, that even though they've been the best team, I just have a feeling that they're not going to win. I'll see whether or not I'm right on something, but I just have a feeling that they're not going to win. And England have really stumbled through this tournament. I think they've had some good fortune with one thing and another, primarily the draw. You know, because it's allowed them to play a lot of teams that they really should beat. And they've made a meal of it. And against Slovakia, I mean, talk about getting out of jail. But anyway, they played well today, and so you can't begrudge them the victory. Interesting to see how they will do on Sunday. What I think will be interesting is after Southgate goes, whether they could get somebody like a Jurgen Klopp to manage the team. And I know they're talking about it for the USA as well, which I'd love to see him take the US team.
Beerhalter got fired today.
I would love to, because there were a list on ESPN that was sent out of, like, I think 15 coaches. And Jurgen Klopp was the first one mentioned. And
but the point is with both England and the USA, the reason that a Jurgen Klopp would be interesting is because he would come in and implement a style of play. Southgate's done well in bringing the group together. I mean, there's no question about that, you know. But tactically, I'd be very surprised if he ever went to a top Premier League team, for example. I'd be very surprised. You know, I don't think he's a coach at that level. Obviously, he's an experienced pro, and he's had his experience now as England manager, knows the game, but I don't think he's quite got the stardust of a Klopp or a Guardiola, for example.
No, he's a mid-table guy at best. I mean, he's a you know, like a Crystal Palace, type of, good team, has some decent players, but like, and could do some things, but you're not challenging for titles. You're not relegation battle. Like, that's kind of where I think I would rate it.
Yeah. He's more of an old-fashioned manager than a coach. Yeah. I mean, because even, for example, Crystal Palace, who you just mentioned, they brought in a German manager whose name escapes me, but he was instantly able to implement a style of play on the team. And I'm not sure...
Liverpool.
Pardon? Oh, yes, yeah. But these Liverpool... I mean, but the point is that they have a style. I don't think Southgate's that kind of guy, because in a lot of the games that England play, England has a lot of good attacking players. But they always look puzzled going forward, and have tended to rely on moments prior to today rather than anything that's kind of a system or a style. Call it what you will.
Yeah, I said that same thing to Salim, Coach, a week ago when they were still in the group stage, where they rely on their star players to have star moments in order to save games. And their knockout game against Slovenia or
Slovakia.
I always mix them up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, Bellingham had a bicycle kick for a goal. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can't just, that's not the way to secure success. You know what I mean?
I mean, but the point is that he could be successful now. And so it's like Manchester United this year. Like, they weren't a good team, but they have a lot of very, very good players.
Agreed.
And so they can do something special in a heartbeat. But again, they're not like Manchester City or Liverpool, Arsenal, like the very top teams in England, where you can see there's a method and there's some thought as to how the game and the style is put together.
Well, like you're saying, like if you have an injury or even just a simple substitution, the system is there. The substitution is just to enhance the system versus relying on the star player to just do the star player things. And I agree. I think both US and England have the same problem where Greg Berhalter, like, I don't understand his style of play because it doesn't translate game to game. Some games is very fluid and other games is very rigid. And it doesn't make any sense to me. And Southgate, I feel like, has some similar traits. It's not quite the same, but there's a lot to sort of speak to there where I just don't know if he's the guy, that galvanizes a team to like make a run in a tournament.
Well, they're making a run right now, man. So,
Well, the irony is, I mean, just say if Jurgen Klopp was to take over the US national team, and when I saw them play Bolivia, for example, I hadn't seen them play for a while, and I thought, well, oh gosh, they have
great. They
have a lot of pace in the team, and so that might appeal to a Jurgen Klopp, getting them to play in a dynamic style. And I watched the subsequent games, and I thought that they were decent. But the point is, ultimately, Jurgen Klopp can come in and he can get them playing to more of a style, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do any better. I mean, he could take over the England team. If England win the Euros on Sunday, I mean, like, the only thing that they can do better is win the World Cup. And Jurgen Klopp could take over from Southgate, have them in the World Cup. He could have them playing better, but maybe in the quarterfinals, like they lose to whoever, whether it's France or a Spain or a Brazil or, what I'm saying is that there's a lot of good fortune when it comes down to the draw, and England and Gareth Southgate have definitely benefited from the draw this time, because if they'd have played one of the top dogs earlier in the tournament, they wouldn't be going into the final.
Yeah. It's
agreed.
It's been an interesting tournament, but also international play is different, right? Because you have this knockout type of tournament, and you got it. Mistakes are magnified, versus a 38 Premier League game season where, okay, you lose one because of a mistake. Okay, it's not the end of the world, but man, in these tournaments, these little, you can feel the tightness in the players. I mean, we mentioned the Spain-France game. I mean, the first half was pretty damn good. The second half, it was just like, it was just really nobody wanted to win it. That's what it felt like. I mean, granted, Spain was ahead, but nobody, I mean, France had some shots. Mbappe hit one over the bar, and all that. But
I think Mbappe wildly overrated.
Well, he's pretty damn good. But let's rein it back. Let's rein it back a little bit here. And Jeff, as far as Liverpool goals, are there any iconic goals that stick out to you?
Oh man, I think I mentioned one already. So John R. Reese's left-footed knuckler. It was awesome. I would say recent memory, the Trent to Divock versus Barca, the corner.
Yeah,
you just don't see stuff like that. It's almost iconic. It's a T-shirt. You know what I mean? Like it's that good. So like I can't get past. I can probably find 2 or 3 others that are really, really great. There are a couple Stevie G goals that I was like, Googling and researching a little bit before this. Then I was like, man, I forgot about that. But like at the end of the day, the IQ and awareness to be able to like see the situation and just bang one right into the 6-yard or like maybe 10-yard area to Divock just standing there alone. Like it's pin perfect and it's executed to perfection. And it wasn't even necessarily planned. It was just a moment. It's everything that Liverpool represents. And I love it.
Yeah, it's a good shout for sure. Coach, before we wrap up, I want to cover 2 things. But the first thing is you mentioned that you don't know if Spain's going to win this game on Sunday. Do you think this is going penalty kicks? Do you think this is a 1-0 game, a 2-1 game? What are your thoughts and feelings about it?
I have a feeling it'll be settled one way or another before penalty kicks, because I think Spain, Spain will come out to play.
Their defense is not amazing either. Spain's defense is not.
Well, I think that you saw the second half yesterday. I mean, when France finally decided that they were going to attack, basically because they had to, I thought the Spanish dealt with it pretty well. I mean, England's defense on paper isn't as strong as it's been in past years. But having said that, like they've been pretty well organized. Spain will pose some different problems for them, I would have to say.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see how it'll go from that kind of perspective. But I have a feeling it'll be settled before penalties. And as I said earlier, I just have a feeling that Spain aren't going to win it, and that's irrespective of whether they're playing England or whoever.
It's funny that you're saying Spain's not going to win it, even though their opposition's England. You're not saying England's going to win it.
Well, Spain's not going to win it. England's going to win it, I guess. But no, actually, before the tournament, when I was reading all these things online and in magazines and what have you, where people speculated what the draw could look like, I thought England had a fantastic chance because they were in a group that they should walk through. And even though they made a meal of it, they knew after 2 games that they were going through. And then the way that the draw could potentially pan out with them being in the weaker half of the draw. So on paper, I thought that they had a fantastic chance, which kind of, then I questioned it because they were playing so badly. And then the Slovakia game, I thought they were out. Everyone thought that they were out until Bellingham did his thing. And I think in a funny way that when Bellingham scored the goal, that is when you think, oh gosh, maybe this is the year. I mean, I went to the Euros in 2004, and I don't know if you remember who won the Euros in 2004.
Was that Greece?
Was that Italy?
Yeah.
It was Greece.
It's Greece.
Total and utter outsiders, no stars.
They won every game like 1-0.
Or they were just, they just kind of scraped through one way and another. And I think England's a lot better team in terms of their talent than that Greece team. But I suppose you could say that about Portugal in 2016 because they didn't play particularly well, but they won it.
Yeah, they figured out a way. The same thing, underdogs, like severe underdogs. Nobody thought they were going to win it.
Right. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I think it's going to be a 2-1. I think it's going to be another 2-1 kind of game because both defenses are available for the mistake or the brain fart where they don't figure out, oh, I got to track this guy back, or you know what I mean, like. And both teams' offenses like to run those channels, and I just feel like there's going to be it's not going to be a 1-1 or a 1-0. It's going to be a a 2-1, a 3-2. It's going to be that kind of game more so.
And who you got winning?
I do think it's going to be a good game to watch. As a neutral, I think it's going to be a great game. But Spain has had to rely on their stars to do star things. The youngster, the Yamin Lamal, he had to have a wicked shot to get one in, and then it's how often can you rely on these star players to do star things to actually win you games? Eventually that's going to run out. That stardust is going to run out. So I'm curious to see what really goes on, because England is in the same boat. There's star stuff that they need to do. And, is it going to be Foden or Bellingham or Kane, or is it going to be somebody off the bench like happened today? Who knows?
What's your prediction? What's the score and who wins?
I'm going 2-1 England, because Pedri is out on Spain, and he's a big deal.
I've absolutely fallen in love with Dani Olmo. I think he is so underrated. He is such a good player. I think his goal against France yesterday was beautiful. I mean, granted, I can't say the youngster's name, Lamine Yamal, whatever his name. Yeah, I mean, that goal was incredible, but I look at Olmo and I'm like, that's a Liverpool player. But
the goal's connected. I mean,
I would love that signing. I think he's fantastic, but I think sorry guys, I got to go against you. I think it's a 2-0, 2-1 Spain victory. I think they have too much up front, and I think they've just been playing well, and England hasn't. But that's my thought. And I guess, Coach, next week somebody will be gloating and somebody won't.
Well, I don't see it like that. I mean, basically, I think Spain's the better team, but it's just a feeling, basically, that they won't win. So
I kind of agree with Coach. I think Spain has been playing better. They've been the better team all tournament. They've been the best team all tournament. But there's something about the way England has kind of scraped through that makes me feel like it's
fate. It's fate. I mean, things like the Bellingham goal, it's just fate.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think
I have one closing thought I wanted to throw in there for both of you. So one of my other favorite goals was from 1997, Clearwater, Florida, against the Miami team, where Coach told me a week prior that I was going to be taking corner kicks from left back to corner kick, and my job was to kick it as hard as I goddamn could to the front post, and Salim's job was to run as hard as he could to that post and just smash himself into the ball, find its way into the net. And God damn it, did it work. If we get a goal against that team, was so much bigger, faster, and more prepared than we were. That was the first game we played outdoors, because we're from New England and they're from Miami. So they were in the middle of their season, and we're this is our first game outside, and it's hot as hell. Yeah. And we still scored a goal, and I actually remember that to this day. Only because I looked at Coach squarely. I was like, really? You want me to run across the field and and just whip one into the front post as hard as I can? And we practiced it, and I started getting good at it. And you were just like, "I'll get there." And I was like, "All right, man.
Yeah,
let's get it."
We lost that game 4-2. That team was dynamite.
We're the national champions, and actually the fourth goal was scored with the last kick of the game. So, it's very close.
Yeah, it was a better game than it should have been, I think, in their eyes. But that goal, I still remember that to this day, because it made me laugh. It was a week or two prior, we were still practicing inside, and Coach was like, "This is what we're going to do." And I was like, "Really?"
Well, do you remember going to the Capital Cup at Thanksgiving?
Yeah, was that in DC or something like that?
It was in DC.
Yeah.
It was kind of, at that time, that was the big recruiting tournament in the country.
That's right.
And I used to go every year, obviously, to try to look at players for toughs and what have you. But this particular year, because you were of an age group, you know, I took you guys, and actually, I think there were 2 or 3 guys I took down as a trial. I can't remember who it was, but anyway, so we went down to the tournament, and of course, I don't think we even practiced before we went because everybody was in high school season. And so we went down to the tournament, and I'm thinking, okay, well, we will get at least, I don't know, 3 or 4 games, and then I'll go home. And we actually got to the final. Except I had already booked a flight home because I didn't think, you know, I wasn't expecting us to do well at all. You know, I already had a flight home, and I had the family with me as well. So I couldn't change my flight. And so my assistant at the time, David Baumritt, I had to take you for the final. And, you know, it was kind of a bit embarrassing, really, for me, because I knew I had a lot of good players and it was a good team. But I just, well, because we hadn't practiced or played together, I just wasn't expecting us to do well. And of course, we did then. So I guess you guys showed me up, didn't you?
Well, Coach, we talked about water carriers. Jeff and I were water carriers for sure. We were glue guys. We brought the intensity, and we brought the fire, the fierceness, and everybody else was we had the Bagleys and the Lenacheks that really were the stars.
Coach, yeah. I hung out with Chris Bagley he lives down here in Wellington with me.
Yeah, well, obviously he played. You know, he played for many years, and he played for the Revs for a bit, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah,
I have a video of him with Taylor Twellman doing some sort of like a heading drill that I cackle out loud about because it looks so ridiculous. But he's on a video with Taylor Twellman doing some sort of like heading drill. But yeah, he played for the Wellington Hammerheads for a while in between. Like he played for Portland and New England, like you said. But yeah, so he lives down here now, and we're so we've reconnected and are friends and everything. And he came going out of my house the other day, so it's really cool.
Yeah, well, he and Nick Lenachek up front were a very potent forward line.
That was one of my favorite things. All I had to do was wait for the ball to get to me and look up and just see which one of them was running down the channel and just bang it across the defense and let them run onto it. It was amazing.
Oh, well, they both had pace. They both had serious pace. So yeah, that was a huge part of their games.
Well, Jeff, I want to thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure talking Liverpool, and we kind of got a little Euro action in there as well. Jeff has mentioned some moments that a lot of you probably won't understand, but all 3 of us on here are smiling, thinking about those days. They were a lot of fun, and we had a good team, and it was just fun playing, and Coach kind of guiding us through how to play properly. So it was a lot of fun. Jeff, thanks again. Coach, thank you as always, and everybody, Liverpool fans, thank you for listening. We will catch you next time. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye now.
Liverpool fans, thank you so much for listening to the Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show and would greatly appreciate your support. Please leave a 5-star review and feel free to email us at tlrlfcpodcast@gmail.com. Looking forward to hearing from you. Till next time.